I don't black or Asian or of mixed background. And thinks he's on about here. Give me a call on 0345 6060 973, the usual number. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. Nels Abbey is here to talk about this with me, a social commentator and author of Think Like a White Man. It's a satirical book on being black in modern Western societies. Nels, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
What the heck's he on about?
That's the $1 billion question, or the £1 billion question, I should say. The problem, I think there's multiple things going on over here. To be a black person in Western societies, as in white-dominated societies, in white-dominated societies in America, Europe, so on and so forth, it does necessitate, in certain situations, the need to code switch, as in to behave in particular manners and adopt particular mannerisms or sometimes even particular politics, or sometimes even particular ways of speaking in order to actually get to where you're trying to get to, in order to prevail as far as maybe your career, maybe financial opportunities or business opportunities are concerned. This is a sad reality, and I wrote in my book, Think Like a White Man, that's what it was about.
If I may, on that issue, that's probably not a uniquely black experience, is it, in this country?
It might, no, far from it. In slightest bit, I think, as far as it is on the sharper edge particularly when it comes to black people, because black people are possibly the most visible minority you have within this country, and sometimes also to the history and the stereotypes that the history has saddled us with, also makes being a black person in your normal skin very
assumptions
about you, the biases associated with it. So I think that as far as Meghan Markle is concerned, Meghan Markle came from a background where she acknowledged that she lived a fairly privileged life, which is actually not unusual. Which is not unusual. You meet privileged, very, very well-to-do black people across the world. You do, and that's totally fine. Meghan Markle married into the royal family. Actually, Meghan Markle went from being an American lady, an African-American lady, a very light-skinned one who could have passed for white, but never did. She acknowledged that she was a lady of mixed race, of a biracial origin or so, or a black woman, or a light-skinned black woman.
People often thought she was a Latina, she said, didn't she, as well?
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. That's a normal thing. If you're a light-skinned black person, that is something that sometimes could actually happen. But she never ran away from her blackness in the slightest bit. She came to Britain, and Britain has this very, very complex relationship with race, which is unbelievably duplicitous. And I think there's something in what we're seeing in Trevor Phillips's behaviors and Trevor Phillips's demeanor, which again speaks to the black experience. It's another wing of the black experience. It's another wing of what looks like me either is, which I hope is code switching, or it could potentially be, these are Trevor Phillips's genuinely held views today.
No, hang on. And can I try and translate that for my own benefit as much as anything else? When you say his demeanor and what he's saying, and it could be code switching, are you saying Trevor Phillips in that instance was saying, look at me, articulate, intelligent, well-known black person, Sir Trevor Phillips, a commentator, a person whose views are sought. This is black.
No, I'm not talking about his presentation or how he speaks or anything else, because that's a fairly common thing. Articulate black people are 10 a penny. They're people who can string a sentence together effectively, or commentators. I'm sure you've spoken to multiple this week, and it's only Thursday. I'm sure you'll speak to many more. Yeah. But the issue is it is not how he said what he said. It is exactly what he said. And what he said, in my view, and in the view of many black people, appeared to be pandering to racism. And that can get
by saying what? There is an acceptable way to be black, and white people decide what that is.
No, beyond just saying that too, by actually the type of stuff you were saying about Meghan Markle, she didn't seek advice and she learned how to be black on the job. She didn't seek advice. She blew the opportunity. There's a way and method and a tone of type of politics, a tone of type of messages and dog whistles and everything else that you send out when you're trying to garner a particular degree of favor. And Trevor Phillips, for the last few decades now, and this is a man I grew up really looking up to, a man who I really admired, who I really thought did so much, has become something very, very different and quite dark. And it seems that, so if you've got, and I do invite you...
Well, he's not here to respond to that, so let's stay on the side of not
I would invite
entering
you and
defamation territory, that is.
Indeed. But I would invite you and your listeners to speak to any black person they know and know well, any black person they know well enough to be honest to them about their perspective on Trevor Phillips today. And he's a public figure, and it's very important. So when
he
you
is,
speak,
but we still have to stay on the right side of slander laws and defamation laws.
Of course.
And let me ask you this then: like I said at the very beginning, you know, she has spoken about that moment or moments when her mother was racially abused and how that taught her a difficult lesson and prompted a conversation between her and her mother. I remember years ago interviewing Desmond Tutu.
Yep.
And he told me he was at the age of about 5 or 6, very young kid, went to the shop with his dad and saw his dad being humiliated because of his race. And that was his first understanding of what racism looked like, but more importantly, perhaps felt like to the individual on the receiving end of it. There were so many assumptions in what Trevor Phillips said about knowing how Meghan Markle feels about herself and her identity.
Yeah, that's just it. So, yeah, it seems so. Meghan Markle has essentially become a lightning rod for racism in Britain, essentially, or the racism discussion. Essentially, she's become a bit of a tennis ball for it. Sadly, you have people who are consistently having to go out their way to defend her because essentially Meghan Markle has become a proxy for black people, and you have people who actually try and make hay out of the disdain or hatred for her. And I think it's a very alarming thing. So when Meghan Markle, Britain, we like to actually proclaim ourselves to be less racist than America or anything else, or France or anywhere else. And there might be some degree of argument in that. But what happened with Meghan Markle, the fact that we had the first the first black member of the royal family having to flee Britain under the cloud of racism from within the family, as well as actual death threats from the far right within Britain, as was pointed out by the actual police themselves. It's a very sad situation. The young lady was left suicidal. So I would have thought that we would be in a situation right now where, particularly those of us who come from a black background, such as myself, such as Trevor Phillips, will probably approach this with a bit more care and tread carefully. And that's just not happening in certain degrees. Well, in some areas.
Do his comments, given that they were all about her being black wrong, that's literally what he said.
Yep.
Do those comments essentially say she's to blame for the racism she's on the receiving end of?
Pretty much, yeah. Absolutely. But again, so it begs the question again too. So if Trevor Phillips saying that she learned to be black on the job or so, the question for him would then be, where did you learn your particular brand of blackness? Because it's not something that's indigenous to the black community. We, as a community, and as communities, we protect ourselves.
And also, you're not just black either, are you? Any more than I'm just white. Do you know what I mean?
Well, but you see, the problem with me, now I understand that, but whiteness within this society is as normal as oxygen. Essentially, you don't notice oxygen. But when I walk inside the room or so, and I'm as a black man or so, that is the first thing people notice when I go
Yes, I get that. But what I meant when I said that was, you know, all of us should be considered for the roundness of our individuality, shouldn't we?
Of course, absolutely. And I completely agree with that. And the problem we have with it is that that's just not the reality of society right now. So when somebody sees me or sees Trevor or sees Meghan or sees anybody else or so, they see the color, the brownness of our eyes and the brownness of our skin. And then the gang of assumptions that comes with that that's the gang of assumptions that comes with that could potentially prove fatal in certain situations, and it could benefit you in other ones. When I was little, but for some bizarre reason, people thought I'd be good at playing football, and I wasn't. Some of my school team, you could feel the disappointment oozing out of my coaches. But that's it.
And I'm still not clear on what he was saying. I'm sorry to be a numbskull, but
no. I think so. The problem with it, Shayla, is that I can really nail this for you. I could nail this for you. But it's hard for me to nail this without making a gang of statements about Trevor Phillips' politics that could potentially lead me and you in hot trouble, in a bit of trouble.
Is it about, if you're still there, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Is it about pleasing a society?
it is pandering to the society. It's pandering, in my view, to the racist elements within society. So he was sat down opposite a presenter who he knew had a strong disdain for Meghan Markle. He's trying to sell a book at this particular time. And then bingo, it is my view, my opinion, my observation, which is rooted firmly in my opinion, that I feel that Trevor, as he has done for quite a bit of the last few decades, was saying what he knew the audience wanted to hear. And if there's one truism in Britain, it's this: no black person ever went broke telling racists what they want to hear. It's a sure guarantee to make yourself quite wealthy and prominent.
Okay.
And that's the problem that we're having here. And it's a difficult discussion to have. It's a difficult discussion to have because not everybody is an honest broker. There's bad faith arguments everywhere. And I'm grateful to you for giving me this platform to discuss it with you, because the difficulty we're having is that these things are a bit taboo to speak about, and we have to treat everybody who's speaking as if they're speaking in good faith. And I'm afraid that's just not the case sometimes.
All right. Nels, thank you very much indeed. Interesting. And we're getting loads of calls, which I thought we would. Nels Abbey, social commentator and author of Think Like a White Man. That's a satirical book on being black in Western societies. It's 3:16.
LB